right on time. Hello everyone, welcome to my live stream, and hello to those that are watching the replay later on. Today is sewing time. We're sewing a coaster, a quilted coaster, an XXL quilted coaster to be exact. But before we got started, like we did last time, we're going to quickly have a look at the projects that I am currently working on, that I just finished, and that planned. All right, let me start with the recent projects I just finished. I made my very first shirt using jersey fabric. This one's for the little guy for my stepson. It's been quite a challenge. I created the pattern myself based on a shirt that I had from him. So yeah, I'm quite happy with the result, to be honest. And he already tried it on and it fits. So I'm kind of proud of myself. Then we have a second project for the little guy, which is a beanie that I basically made from leftover fabric from the shirt. So this one is also a first. I had to tweak the pattern a little bit. I used a pattern that I found online that was for free. I think it was Patty Do. Yeah, I think it was a Patty Do pattern. I have to look for the link. I'm going to paste it into the file later on after the stream. And yeah, as I said, I had to make some tweaks. Then we have a trick or treat tote, also for the little guy. This one has been made with, I think it's polyester. I bought this fabric off of AliExpress and it said cotton in the description. But when I got it, I knew instantly that's not cotton, but okay. It's polyester, but it's okay for a tote. So he's probably going to use it one time and that's about it. So that's okay. What else? I'm working on a couple of planner spreads at the moment, and I am actually test driving them, as you can see. I am thinking about doing a World of Warcraft collection of spreads and printables for planners. This one is for pet farming in Nasheta, which is Battle for Azeroth. The second one is also Battle for Azeroth, and it is for the assaults. I'm currently farming the medals of the 7th Legion and therefore created this spread. Still a couple of mounts and pets to buy, I realized. So this is what I'm doing until the final release of Dragonflight goes live. Then what's next? Oh yeah, I just started creating a pattern for a shirt for myself. Again, based on a simple t-shirt, and it's also going to be a raglan shirt. I actually currently am busy sewing everything together, so I already completed the pattern. I cut out the fabric, and now I'm working on sewing everything together with it, which is kind of nasty when you're working with jersey. The fabric from hell, I don't like it, but okay. Anything else? No, we're better at the beginning. So this is what I'm doing right now. A lot of sewing going on. Some spreads, probably some more spreads coming your way soon. I've got some that I'm currently working on, or better to say that I'm designing at the moment. They're not yet in a stage where I say, okay, I could start using them, trying out if it works or not. I still have to design them, but I'm almost finished. All right, now let's come to the project we're doing today. As I said, we are doing some sewing project, double XL quilted coasters, and something like this, which I have in front of my keyboard to house a cup of tea and some water. And we're doing something pretty similar. fabrics are also quite similar that I choose for this one. It's a great project for using up fabric scraps. So when you have a lot of scraps lying around, fabric scraps, I mean, try quilting. You will definitely get rid of quite a lot, just my tip. And there are a lot of ideas online, especially on YouTube, what exactly you can do, tiny quilting projects to use up fabric scraps. So a lot of inspiration out there. So of course, I'm prepared because we're not doing the sewing from scratch. That would take too much time. Um, we will be doing we will be adding the bias tape, which is basically the last step. But I recorded the first steps for you. So let's start with choosing the fabric. I've got a short video for you. So this is the pattern, which you can, by the way, download. It's in the folder that's linked below. And you can see that I'm arranging different sized fabric scrap parts to make sure that everything is kind of fits well together and is sort of ordered by color, to be honest. But hey, so I'm making sure that the whole pattern is covered to make sure that I have enough scraps. But in the end, I didn't have, but you will figure it out later. All right, so this is the first step. Choose the fabrics. Then in the second step, I am doing the actual sewing. So this is a piece of padding that I'm just using for measuring while sewing along. You can see I'm always taking two fabric scrap parts, draw a line where I'm going to sew along to make it a straight seam, marking it with a ruler pen, sorry. And then I'm just adding the seam. Nothing too fancy. And I'm doing that for every bit of fabric. Let me see whether we can skip a bit. This is taking us too long otherwise. All right, we're nearly at the end, nearly there. Here we go. So I think this is the second last part I'm about to add. You can see I already added quite a lot at this stage. Now this is a smaller stripe. All right, here we go. Seeing everything. Jesus Christ, this is a long video. Okay. Almost done, and then the last part didn't fit. Luckily, I had a bigger part on hand, so I simply exchanged the smaller one for the bigger and attached it at the end. Also sewing it all together. As you can see, I have a normal sewing machine, so nothing too fancy, and no overlock machine, which is making sewing jersey even more fun, by the way. So that's it. This is the top part of the coaster, and everything fit perfectly at this stage. Afterwards, I continued with some pressing first, then pinning. So what I did is I did some ironing so that every seam is probably folded and everything looks neat and tidy, which is actually quite quick. So nothing huge. Just go over it with an iron and you can see in a couple of seconds you're done. Then I have the padding, the background, and now the top layer, which I'm putting on top of everything. Make sure everything is covered. And then I'm pinning it in place. And it took me quite a lot of pins to make sure everything is tightly pinned together and nothing's going to unravel or get lost or whatever. And I'm adding pins after pins. It was necessary, believe me. You could also use clips, but I'm a fan of pins, to be honest. Clips always get lost, in my case, or fall off. Then I'm cutting off the leftover fabric that I don't need. Yes, I know that should be done after quilting, but in this case it was necessary. Now it's just sewing a simple seam all around the coaster to make sure that everything is sewn together and stays in place. So nothing too fancy, just a simple seam. Black thread. I mean, you will not be able to see it afterwards, so this is the part that will be covered with bias tape later on. Alright, I think that should be it. Yeah. Cutting off the thread, taking out the pins. I forgot to mute my cell phone. Just remembered. Let me just quickly do that. All right, so that's where we are at the moment. Looks like this. And as you can see, a simple seam all around the edges. What we're doing now, this aside, we're going to use bias tape. If you don't have any, you can make bias tape. There are tons of tutorials online. By the time I prepared this project, which is a couple of weeks ago to be honest, I didn't have any bias tape on hand, therefore I made some myself, enough to go all around the coaster. In the meantime, I also bought some, which is looking nicer than the self-made one, but for this project I'm going to use the self-made one because I don't want to throw it away, you know. So you can buy it, but you can also make it yourself. So what we're doing now is we're folding it open and we're going to pin it all around the edges of the coaster on top, namely like this, so that it covers the whole edge of the coaster. I'm doing a couple of centimeters and then I'm showing you. Yes, we are starting with this side. Again, you can use pins or you can use clips. In this case, I would recommend using pins because especially when there are no straight edges, it can get a bit fiddly otherwise. And the clips sometimes tend to fall off or don't make the fabric stay in place like you want it to. So you're going to add the bias tape all around like I did up here. Right. A little fiddly here and there. And I'm later going to sew it in place by hand, which you can of course do with your machine, but I prefer doing it by hand because I love sewing by hand. And I feel like I have more control, especially with the non-straight edges. Okay, it takes a little while to pin everything in place, but that's okay. Just make sure that the edge of the bias tape matches with the edge of the coaster. And in this case, I used a bias tape of about 4 centimeters in width in total. So when you iron it together, it's 2 centimeters, and then you can iron it down and fold it over to make it just 1 centimeter. All right. After you pinned everything in place, you're going to make another seam all around. As I said before, I'm going to make it by hand, which will take me a couple of minutes, but that's okay. And you do that with a seam allowance of about 1 centimeter if you're using a bias tape of in the sizing that I mentioned. I'm almost done. Just a couple of more minutes, almost done. If you're doing with just straight edges, it doesn't take that long to pin everything in place, of course, but I wanted it to have round edges, and now I'm paying the price. Right, the last centimeters. And the fun part is having all those little pins peeking through your fingers. Alright, so the opening will be something that I will be do at the end to make it look neat and tidy. And therefore, I am starting not at the beginning of the bias tape, but about 2 to 3 centimeters in. So my bias tape starts here, but I'm going to start sewing around here. So I've got this part that I can later fold inwards and make it look nice. So now what we need is sewing thread, black one in my case, scissors, a needle, and something I highly recommend, a thimble. Mine is a self-made one out of leather. Easier to handle for me than one made out of metal. So, because the metal one tends to fall off my finger for whatever reason. So I decided I'm going with a self-made one. And this tutorial that I used is by Bernadette Benner. She's a well-known YouTuber in the sewing community, so just Google her. Okay, what we're doing now is, as I said, with a seam allowance of about 1 centimeter, we're going to sew all around it using a backstitch. If you don't know what a backstitch is, check out the document that I linked in the description below. I put a link in there to some descriptions. Also, check out one of the past, I think it's the last sewing live stream that we did. I put some descriptions by Bernadette Benner regarding backstitching in there. They're pretty good. Otherwise, just Google it. There are tons of descriptions. All right, so let's start backstitching. The cool thing is that when you already ironed your bias tape, you can simply use the first fold and sew along this one. So you don't have to mark any seams here. It gives you perfect directions where to sew along. Alright, as I said, this is probably going to take me a little while, but that's okay. I'm getting better and better in backstitching, but in the end, it's hand sewing and that takes a little while. Especially when you're sewing black on black. It's not in there. No, not anymore. Perfect. And you can remove the pins as you go, which makes it easier to handle. If you not got something sticking into your fingers all the time. So whenever I arrive at a new pin, I just simply sew over it once and then remove it. And afterwards, I once again pull that thread tight just to make sure. So this is, oops, I got stuck. This is the part that I made now. It's going to take a little while, as I mentioned. This is one of 2 stitches that you're going to need for this project, in case you're not using your machine, of course. And I just remember that I didn't prepare anything for the second stitch. I have to look the name up of that one. Doing it all the time, but I actually never thought about how it was called. I'm going to check Bernadette Benner's book in a second. After we're done with this backstitching thing here. And it doesn't have to look too tidy on the back, because on the back there will be bias tape in the end. So we're doing the tidying up afterwards, so to say, when we are folding over the bias tape, but I'm going to show you. luckily I've got nothing else planned for this live stream. After the live stream, I'm probably going to bake a cake and going to prepare tomorrow afternoon. We're going to have our family over for a little pumpkin carving, cake and some coffee. Quite looking forward to that one. Because yeah, I love Halloween. It's the last day of the school holidays, therefore a perfect day to do some pumpkin carving with a little guy. His mom is also coming, so this is going to be fun. I think this is one of those things where we, like parents, I'm not a parent officially, but you know what I mean, are actually having at least as much fun as the little guy. I would say 1/3 is done. No, this is not taking us longer than an hour, to be honest, because I still have dinner to prepare. But I think I'm going to make something that is quick to cook. Let's see. We'll see. Yeah, hand sewing definitely takes its time. Should probably have done this with a machine, but well, it's much more fun doing it by hand. finished off and continue backstitching. As I said, I'm almost halfway through. Almost. Could actually switch to this one. Something got a bit stuck here. It's not nice. Okay, this way. Strange noises coming from outside. Oh, I think it's just my boyfriend opening a 6-pack of water. It's the plastic wrapping. Always sounds strange. We are nearly there. But I don't think that the piece of sewing thread that I cut is enough. I probably have to add another piece later on, but that's okay. Fortunately, backstitching is something that can take ages. The seam on the other side will be much quicker, luckily. a lot of thread that time. Almost there. Almost. And at this point, so this is left. Going to add another piece of thread now, because otherwise this one is getting too short, which is not that much fun to work with afterwards. Alright, third piece of thread. Where did I finish? Okay, here. Sewing by hand is a good skill, one that comes in hand, by the way, whenever you're having issues with your clothing. This way you can do some easy and quick mending. I'm going to sew the back stitches until about 2 centimeters before the beginning of the other 2 centimeters in front before the other end. You know what I mean? Okay. I started about here, left about 2 centimeters, and now I'm going to leave another 2 centimeters. So I'm just going to sew until there, and that gives me enough space to fold the fabric the way I want it to be, to create a nice closure. centimeters. Removing the rest of the pins. And then at the beginning okay, black is a stupid color. I'm just folding it inwards so that it has a nice edge on the inside. Pin it in place. Then I put the rest of the bias tape over it, and I cut it about 1 centimeter or 2 after the ending. And once again, pin it in place. And then continue sewing along the edge. Where is, oh, I put it here. Tie it off. And don't forget to remove the pins. So this is how it looks at the moment. And what we are doing now is we are folding things over. So we're folding the bias tape over the edge. This is the point where it's important that you did some ironing of the bias tape before you started sewing. And with the clothing you can see, oh, I forgot to cut this one off. Everything looks neat and tidy afterwards. And at the back it looks like this. And what we're doing now is we're using another stitch. Let me just quickly check the book. How's it called? Which pages are the hand stitches? This is the book, by the way. One of my favorites. Stitches. The basting stitch or felling stitch? I'm not quite sure. I think it's felling stitch. Yes, no, it's a whip stitch. Whip stitching, otherwise known as felling or hem stitching, is used to secure the edge of one material onto the base of another, such as when hemming, finishing seams, overcasting, or attaching trims to garments. So this is whip stitching, felling. Alright. So we're taking another piece of thread. This time I'm not going to use that much. And we're going to attach the bias tape on the back of the coaster. And by using a felling stitch, you can do that almost invisible. Almost. Alright. And I am going to start, I think, at the point where I have the beginning and the end. Finish this one off nicely. Okay, making this one black on black for a video might not have been the smartest idea I ever had. Of course, you can pin it in place. I'm probably going to do it for the edges that are not that round. Yeah, I think that makes sense. That will look better in the end. More pins, yay! Just a few this time. Not that much. Don't need anything for the straight edges, but where it's round, it probably works better if I put some pins in. Straight edge, not straight anymore, so pins. Yeah, it requires a few pins. And that's okay. But like this. So enough pins. Let's continue hemming. Or felling, as we just learned. As I said, Sunban takes its time, but this stitch is definitely faster than the back stitch. And with a bit of practice, you're even faster. So it's like everything else in life, it's all a matter of practice. Practice makes perfect. I mean, I don't want to be perfect, but I want it to look good, and that is based on practice. Plus it's fun, which makes practicing even better. One third done. Now coming to the straight part again. Almost an hour now, but that's okay. It's not exactly the neatest felling I ever did, but it's okay. I started here and I'm now here. Okay, the background and wearing black might not have been the best idea. So almost half done. Just love this stitch. It's so easy, but the effect is so nice. We're almost there. Just one pin left, about 10 centimeters to go. At least no pins left. The final centimeters. everything looks neat and tidy. Black on black, I know. Going to take some pictures for next time. But done, winter edition. Alright, so last but not least, we're going to have a look at my upcoming projects and plans, especially for the next video and the next live stream, which is okay. So the next video that will be uploaded is the November planner setup, which is going live on the 2nd of November. The next live stream will happen on the 12th of November, probably again around 4 or 5 p.m. Just check out the date that I actually scheduled then. And we are going to make some Christmas cards because I still have to craft my this year's Christmas cards. I like to do that myself instead of buying pre-made ones. So this is what we will be doing then. And next project that I will be working on off camera is the jersey, the raglan jersey shirt for myself will be finished. We will do some pumpkin carving with the whole family tomorrow afternoon, and I will probably share some pictures of our pumpkins on Instagram and during the live stream in 2 weeks. Then we will be crafting some gift tags, I think, in the beginning of December during the live stream. Plus, I plan to create different kinds of Christmas ornaments for our Christmas tree this year, just to add some new stuff. Yeah, and that's about it. So I would say, once again, if you have questions, let me know. Add a comment. In the meantime, check out my other videos, check out my planner, and check out my Instagram. Otherwise, I would say see you soon. Thank you for watching, and